Hello, welcome to another video from Homesteading Off the Grid. Today we're going to show you how to make the world's easiest, most simple composter so you can have compost available for your gardening year-round. But before we start to compost, I want to point out my wife's banana bread here. She made it yesterday. It's delicious. We've already been eating it. And if you want to learn how to make this delicious banana bread, scroll down through our video collection, and it should be the video right beneath this one. She shows you how to make that. Now, with no further ado, I'm going to talk about composting. I'm going to point out a few things. Basically, there are three things you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about composting. That's aeration, moisture, and microorganisms. You need all three of these things to make your compost work. Okay. You also want to make sure that anything you put in your compost pile used to grow and be alive. Or you can use animal droppings as long as they're droppings from animals who only eat things that used to grow and be alive. That means vegetation, plants. Sure, other animals grow and used to be alive, but you don't want to use droppings from meat eaters. You can use droppings from rabbits, which we have a lot of in our what we call our little lab here, and I'll explain that later. But you don't want to use droppings from scavengers or predators. And you don't want to use meat products in your compost pile. Why? Because as you can see, we live out in the country in a forested area. If I were to put chicken bones or steak fat into my compost pile, that very night raccoons, possums, coyotes, and even bears would break into our pen and destroy our compost pile to get to that. You got to remember, bears can smell a candy bar in a wrapper from 3 miles away. So you better believe if there's a bear half a mile into these woods, they're going to smell those chicken bones and come get it. So I'm going to take the phone from my beautiful bride here to show you what I've done. And remember, scroll down to see my beautiful bride showing you how to make that delicious banana bread. But this is a very simple composting mechanism I've got here, and I'm going to explain to you what I did and why I did it. Okay, number one, I mentioned moisture. Your compost pile is going to need some moisture, but not too much. I built a simple little composting retainer on top of a wooden pallet. Now the reason I put it on top of a wooden pallet is to get it up off of the surface level. We've mentioned in some of our other videos we've made here, when we actually the other day we made a raised garden bed, which we're still working on filling in. It was too wide for my wife's little short arms to reach into the center without having to walk into it, so I built a walkway here so she can walk through this area now and work from both sides. So, but when building that, we mentioned that when the rains come in the spring, we get a lot of runoff in here and it floods beneath the surface. That sounds strange, but we get a lot of water contained just beneath the surface. And we found that out sadly while we were raising our rabbits here last year, and we lost some of the babies who were still in their nests underground and drowned. So we've relocated the rabbits, and we're now using this pen, which is full of rabbit feces for the last year, high nitrogen, as fertilizer. So I put my composter on top of a pallet to keep it above that excessive moisture level. I buried it on 3 sides, and there's a hole in there. I took advantage of where some rabbit holes had been to make sure air can get up underneath, but then I buried it on 3 sides for stability. I put chicken wire on top of the pallet inside to keep my compost inside the cage, and then my cage is simply 2" by 4" wiring. Okay, now I didn't bury the front part because I want air to be able to get into the pallet and up underneath my compost pile so that it can breathe. That way that gives those microorganisms air to breathe, gives them oxygen, and allows them to break down the compost quicker. Now I will point out, come here honey, take this phone please so we can catch this. You would be amazed at how many farming injuries are caused every year due to just simple wiring. That's why you see me wearing safety glasses. Anytime I work with wiring, I wear safety glasses. This is an old cage we had around some apple trees last year that we don't need now because we took the cages off on some of those. They've gotten big enough to where they're protected from the deer. But these ends of the wiring right here can poke you in the eye when you least expect it and put you blind. Google it. It happens to hundreds, if not thousands, of farmers every year. Okay, so how do we keep everything that we put in here to compost from falling through the holes in the chicken wire and into our hole? Well, we're smart with our first layer of compost. We've got a bunch of leaves from last fall. They are organic in nature. They used to be alive. We simply will make our first layer of compost leaves. There's a mixture of poplar in here, oak, there's a maple, there's actually a water birch that floated down from up on top of there. That's where our birches are. Or not water birch, but a paper birch. So it's this simple. The leaves will keep whatever you put in here next from falling down through the holes. Now you can go ahead and we'll just get dirt from anywhere. It's all dirt in here. We'll even this up later if we want, but you can put a light layer of dirt on top of your leaves. Just sprinkle enough on there to kind of hold them down some. Okay, but you don't want to put too much soil, but put enough to hold your leaves down. Okay, to add some stability. And then also, to tamper them down a little bit, I've got a bucket full of wood stove ash. You don't want to use too much of this because you want to make sure that your soil's pH remains in pretty good balance. And if you're putting too much wood ash in your compost pile, you're going to disturb the pH balance of your soil when you use the compost. So I won't put it all in there now, I'll just put a very thin layer. Something else to keep in mind about your compost pile is it's all about layering. You want diversity. So now later in the year when we're mowing grass and we have a bunch of grass clippings, or when I'm weeding, which we do minimally around here, but we do some, I'll use that also. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and just throw the compost we have for the last couple of days. Okay, we've got our coffee grounds. Coffee is one of our primary food groups, so we always have plenty of coffee grounds. We love fruit. There's banana peels, apples. Yes, this looks wasteful to throw an entire half an apple away in here. But I'll tell you why we do it. We have a cat. Where is she? She's lurking around here. You see her in most of our videos. Her name's Cleopatra. She loves to taste everything. So this apple was on the table and we walked in and caught her licking the apple. So we don't waste food like this ordinarily. And then we've got eggshells, which are high in calcium. Add some calcium to your soil. So folks, pretty easy. Just collect your compost. Oh, and the crumbs from the banana bread. The banana bread is delicious. We're not throwing the crumbs away because they're not. Our son doesn't eat the crust part of it and he throws it in the compost pile. If I see him laying around on his plate, I'll eat them. But if they get in the compost pile before I see it, I'm not pulling them out of the compost pile and eating them. So we simply throw our scraps from our organic scraps from our meals into the compost pile. And it really is simple. I didn't show you me making this cage and everything in the video because I didn't want to make the video too long, but it basically took me 10 minutes. I had the cage made previously from being used around a tree. We had the pallet, we have several pallets, and I had the chicken wire. It took me 10 or 15 minutes to set this up, and from this point you simply add your compost. We have two rules on the farm here on the homestead. Number one is hinai. That's Visayan, my wife's native language for take your time, do it right, do it once, and there's nothing out here worth getting hurt overdoing. So that's another reason I wear the safety glasses. And number two, rule number two for us is the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. This is simple. You know, if you're on YouTube right now, if you go up into the search box and put composter, how to compost, any of those, you're gonna see these fancy schmancy composters that you buy at Lowe's for hundreds of dollars, and they have the holes and they turn and you can plug them in and they're electric and they do all these things, they slice, they dice. Folks, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Keep it simple. This is a simple process. If we think about composting in nature, if you see behind me, the leaves fall, the weeds die off, and Mother Nature, with time, composts all that. And she didn't pay anything for it. So you shouldn't be running down to Lowe's and paying hundreds of dollars for some fancy schmancy composter when you can do it yourself with materials you probably have ready available in storage outside your house, or which you can pick up for free. Go to Craigslist and look up pallets. There are people who will give them to you if you simply come and haul them away. So thanks for joining us for this video on a very simple way to make a composter and how to compost. Please look in the bottom right hand of your screen right now and you'll see a little box that says join us. If you hover over that, the subscription button will come up. It'll say subscribe. Please subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing lots of planting this spring, and we've already got some great ideas in other videos for you if you scroll down through our collection. And we look forward to seeing you again next time when we make another video from Homesteading Off the Grid.